Okie dokie artichoke, we got another Friday Live coming at you super quick. We'll kick it off and let you know who I am. If you don't know, I am Connor. If you didn't know, I'm Connor from Pittsburgh and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles. Basically, if you're new here, this is how we do things. We say hello to everyone. We welcome anyone that wants to join our little community we got here every single Friday at 3 p.m. PST. So this is a little new angle, a little new better lighting that we got here that I scouted out. Let's get into these questions so don't waste any more of your time. Some good ones today for you guys. We have 8 questions that we're gonna go through today. Highlights that we're gonna talk about today, if you want to stick with me for this entire time, is going to be following. So we're going to talk about pressure to be alpha as a man. We're going to talk about books, some of my favorite books that I've read. We're going to talk about cheat days. And last but not least, we're going to wrap it up with talking about long distance dating. We got some juicy ones for you today. We got some ones that are going to help you get better. They're going to serve you. All right, let's get into this, yeah? What do you think of the culture that pressures guys to be alpha? I personally gave that up a couple years ago, I would say. I kind of just gave all that idea up about being like an alpha male and being like an alpha guy, and doing things that don't really coincide with what I believe to be good, what I believe to be true, what I believe to be standards of who I want to be. So like when I was growing up, I used to certainly like want to do things because I thought they were, honestly, I thought they were manly and I thought that they would help me attract girls that I could date. Like sports would be a big thing. Like if you're a boy or you're a young boy growing up, and I like wanted to play football because all the girls liked all the people who played football. I did like it, but like I only liked it because like my friends played it, right? And then whenever my friends all stopped playing football, then I didn't like football. I didn't want to play it anymore. I think it's kind of bogus. It's kind of this like facade that you think that's gonna like benefit you as a man if you act this way, right? And I think if you're naturally outgoing, if you're naturally super extroverted and you're naturally type A personality, like dominant person, when it comes to like being a man and an alpha male, like if that's how naturally you are, like dude, go for that, like just be who you are. But if you're not maybe like that and you're more like type B and you're more like introverted and you're more like intellectual and you're more reserved, then I would say that, just because you don't fit the typical mold of being this alpha male doesn't mean that you're excluded or disqualifies you from being a confident person and being a confident male figure that people can look up to and aspire to be like. That's what it's all about. What does it mean to be an alpha male? I would say that it's someone that my younger self as a younger boy would look up to as a 25-year-old. Like if I was growing up and I was like in high school or something like that, I would look up to myself now. That's who like I want to be, is someone who that like the younger version of myself would look up to and want to aspire to be more like. We'll get into the next one. This question is the following, and I'll ask you guys this. What do you wish you had more time to do? Spending time with my family and my friends. I kind of think about like what are like these intangible things, like experiences or moments that make me feel really good. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever had like really good quality time or an experience or like a night with your family or like your really close friends or like your someone you're like, you're married to or you're dating or something like that. And you sort of like go to bed and you like lay your head on the pillow and you were just so content. You just feel so good. All is right in the world. Nothing is wrong. Everything is right in this world. I'm content. Like, have you ever had one of those nights where you just like lay your head on the pillow after like a really, really, really good night or like a good day with like the people that matter the most to you, right? Like maybe it's like you go on a vacation or something like that. You spend time with like your family that you don't get to spend time like that with, or you're hanging out with like your friend that you haven't seen in a while, and it was really good catching up with them. I spent more quality time with the people that mattered like most to me in my life, right? And I didn't just like go off solo and doing things like on my own. So that's probably what I would say to that, is just spending more time with my friends and family that like lead to experiences like that. Now we're on question number 3, and this question is about books. So this question is, what is your fave book? I've gotten more into reading over the past 2 years. It's made me a lot more articulate, and I try not to say like, and I try not to say and I try not to say so as much whenever I'm doing these lives. I think I've gotten a lot better at that. It's made me more thoughtful with the way that I speak, kind of ironically, and how that's translated into just how I like how I interact with obviously this is on social, but I feel as though that this is similar to having just a normal conversation with just people in general too. My favorite book that I've read this year is probably 48 Laws of Power, I would say, from Robert Greene. My favorite book that I read last year was Really Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. Asked me what my favorite book was before 2022, before last year. I would probably say The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I am a super big fan of reading, and I feel like that's something that I want to translate a lot more of my time into. Taking my time off of social media and all of that, and just kind of translating that into reading a little bit more. I read 10 pages every single day, but I start doing like a little bit more of that. One of my favorite books. I'm gonna answer some quick ones just like on like fitness and nutrition super quick, because I just want to sprinkle that in a little bit here. The question is the following. So what would you recommend for someone overweight and not too familiar with the gym? Maybe start doing just like at-home workouts. I would probably recommend to start out with first. I think gym anxiety is so real. Everyone totally knows what that is and like feels like going with like a partner or friend or something like that could certainly help. But if you don't have someone that is willing to do that with you, then maybe what I would probably recommend is maybe start like super infrequent, and maybe just kind of start with like working out at home, right? And maybe we do 3 workouts per week at home. Maybe we just do full body workouts at home for 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be that long. It's just maybe like getting the gears going. You get comfortable with like doing certain exercises and knowing how certain exercises feel and how to sort of engage certain muscle groups, right? So you sort of are familiar, and it's kind of like doing your own little research, right? If you are kind of nervous and anxious before going to like the gym to work out, I think that's like a good recommendation, is to start with maybe doing some at-home exercises, and then maybe if you get to a point where you feel comfortable enough to kind of like go into the gym, and you're still a little nervous, which is like totally understandable. Hell, I get nervous to go to the gym like too, right? Nowadays too. So maybe you go with a friend or something like that, or someone that like a family member or something like that you can kind of like, at least feel like you know someone there and you're not like as nervous. And I think the part about like gym anxiety and going to the gym, this is a hack, like this is a pro tip right here, is if you I think this probably like an unspoken thing that when I have gym anxiety that comes up is it's not really anymore like going to the gym anymore, obviously, but it's kind of like, what am I supposed to do between sets? Like what am I supposed to do? What do I do? Like what do I do when I'm resting between my sets and I'm like recovering, right? Like that's something that for me that was like, especially if you're in the dumbbell section, you're kind of just like sitting there, you're just like on the bench, if you're using the bench in the dumbbell section, you're just like sitting there. And you're like resting between a set that you did. I feel like it's super awkward, and you're just kind of like sitting there and you're just like, all right, do I feel ready? And sometimes you're like, you kind of rush your rest period because it's just like awkward, right? You're just like, all right, maybe if I look like I'm doing something, it's gonna be a little less awkward. I'm gonna have a little bit less of anxiety, right? So one thing that I will say that helped me with that is timing my rest periods on this thing. And I'll typically, rest period of like 1 minute, right? Like I'll go to my stopwatch. I'll go to my stopwatch here and I'll like put like 1 minute and then I'll go. So that's something that helped me, and I'll literally just sit there and like wait until until it's a minute, or I'll have like my water bottle, and I'll just drink my water like during my rest periods, right? So I'm like doing something because I also just don't want to like always be on my phone like during my rest periods too. But like that was just something quick I wanted to say about like if you do make it into the gym and you're feeling a little like nervous or anxious, that's something that helps me is doing that, is like timing my rest periods, drinking my water, so I'm not feeling like super awkward or shy or weird like when I'm actually in the gym and I'm just like resting, waiting for my next set. So yeah, that's probably just what I would say to that. The next one is sort of on that too. It's on the nutrition side. And this person asks, do you believe in cheat days? Like a full day where you're maybe eating like a full day of cheat meals. I'm not a big fan of that. Having like full days of cheat meals and still staying within your calorie intake and still staying within your macro intake. Granted, it would probably be hard to get your protein intake from like a big cheat meal without going overboard on your carbs and without going overboard on your fats. You're probably not gonna feel like 100% the next day. You're not gonna feel good. It's probably gonna throw you off your rhythm. I'm a fan of like cheat meals. Like if you wanna do a cheat meal, if you're plateauing in a fat loss phase, once every so often, like especially if you've had a good streak and stretch of weight loss, like absolutely by all means, like I think that's totally healthy to do that. These are like some more personal ones, so I'll just like answer these super quick. So this one is, are you at your dream weight right now? Is that we have now topped our highest weigh-in this morning that I've ever weighed my entire life at 210.6 this morning. So we are at 210 pounds. You know, if we're gonna round up, we're at 211 right now. 211 pounds right here. That's what you're looking at right now. So that's about like 96 kilos. And the reason why I am stacking on some beef right now is because we got a little powerlifting meet coming up in about 16 days, yeah? So a little over 2 weeks coming up. We got a powerlifting meet coming up. We're trying to lift the most weight that we've ever lifted in my entire life. So I'm super pumped and I can't wait to do that and share with you guys what our numbers are. It's let me let go of my like body standards a little bit. Like I was kind of always afraid to put on a lot of weight. I think a lot of people have this mindset because they feel like they're gonna not be able to lose it, right? Like lose like the fat if they put, you know, obviously if you kind of are in a caloric surplus and you know, lean gaining phase, then you're gonna put on some fat. Typically it's gonna be equal to how much muscle you put on if you do it right. And I think, you know, in my eyes, I was always kind of conservative with like how much weight I would put on because I didn't want to like get too fat or get too, look at myself in the mirror and be like, where did my abs go, you know? So I kind of like have let that go a little bit. And I've just been like, this is the purpose that I'm putting on this weight for. And who cares if we don't have, my abs aren't as shredded as they were when I was like 185 pounds, right? Like who cares? Last two questions here and I'll let you guys go. Do you think you'll stay in LA long term? So personally, I don't know. I don't think so. Definitely here until next July, until I turn 27. And as far as like the future, what the future has in store, who the heck knows? What I've kind of like told myself is like, I'm not someone that would just make a decision on a whim like that. Granted, I am in my 20s and I'm like, you know, I think you should be you should be like calculated, taking some calculated like fun risks when you're that age, if you can afford to do so. Just told myself like whatever makes the most sense given the circumstances and given the situation that's surrounding me at that point, when it comes to like whatever makes the most financial sense, whatever makes the most sense when it comes to friendships that I have, like my family, like whatever makes the most sense at that time, that's like the decision that I'm gonna choose to do, right? Given like where I'm at, which season like I'm at in my life. This last one before I'll like cut it is thoughts on long distance dating. I am not the biggest fan of it. If I do say so myself, that's what floats your boat, then that's what floats your boat. It doesn't really float my boat, but I would prefer to not do that. And I think it's a lot better if you can like sit next to someone, sit down next to someone, go out to dinner with them in person, whenever you want, on a Wednesday, on a random Tuesday, and go out to dinner or just do something fun together, like go for a walk or something like that. I think like you can't even really put that into words, like how that would translate into something like long distance. If it works, I think it can work temporarily until it like becomes sort of like a in-person thing. But yeah, snuggles are important. You got that right. I think that's gonna cut it for this live. I appreciate everyone. I love you guys for tuning in. And I will see you guys back here at this time next week. So have a safe Friday night. Have a lovely weekend. And I will see you guys soon. Peace.